Unlock your potential with these free classroom resources. The knowledge you need is right here.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about video verification. So you might ask yourself, what is video verification? Well, video verification is something that we use in conjunction with a typical alarm monitoring system. We use it to reduce false alarms, to improve response times from our first responders, and to improve the capture rate of people who may be doing damage to our property or our building or whatever. So the old way, and the way that most people still do it, is that they have an alarm system. They use alarm monitoring, and when a sensor goes off, we know that something happened. We probably even know where it happened, but we don't know what happened. So if you have your business armed and the front door sensor goes off, you know that the sensor was activated and you know where it's located, but you don't know why it went off. Did someone open the door? Did someone force their way through? Did someone not set the alarm correctly? I've even seen cases where the sensor just happened to fall off the door. If you're in a state with a lot of temperature changes and people are using sensors that are glued to the door, sometimes that actually happens. The door changes size so fast with the change in temperature, especially on aluminum doors, and that sensor just falls right on off. But we don't know what happened. So when the alarm monitoring center or whomever is responding there, when they call the police, the first responders that are going to come, they're forced to guess what's going on. And because of the amount of false alarms that happen every single day all across the country, these types of alarms often become a low priority. So the new way we want to talk about today, video verification. In this case, alarm notifications are accompanied by video clips. And so what happens is your front door sensor goes off. And so in addition to your alarm monitoring company getting that notification, they also get clips of the video of the cameras that look at that door. So they can review that video and see what's happened. They also typically are granted live video monitoring of the premises, and it's usually only for a short period of time, but it allows them to see not just what happened, but also what's going on currently. And this helps to reduce the chance of a false alarm. It also is an ability for the monitoring center to relay crucial details to your first responders. So if a fire alarm goes off and you know that, it's a bunch of boxes in the back that are on fire, or a tire in the warehouse is on fire, or whatever, you can report those details. If someone breaks into your property, you can report the details of what they look like, what they're wearing, if they're carrying a weapon of any type, how many of them there are, if they drove there, what kind of vehicle they have, hopefully even the license plate of that vehicle. You can provide all these details to the first responders. So the benefits there are the visual verification of the event, right? So now we know either it's a verified threat, there's no threat, or it's unknown. When you don't have video verification, it's always unknown. When you do have video verification, unknown is rare, but it does happen. And it might be the case where we talked about a sensor falling off a door. From the clip that's received by the monitoring center, they may not be able to see that sensor fell off the door. So in that case, it would be unknown. But they would be able to verify that there are no people in the building. And so, again, they may still request a police response, but it doesn't have to be a rush, and the police know that they're not going to encounter someone inside the building. Again, a clear description of any threat actors, so we can tell, what they look like, what color they are, what color their clothing is, if they have any tattoos, if they have certain logos or anything written on their shirt, or, whatever, just everything we can use to describe what they look like so that when the police find them, they can positively identify that that's who it is. And it keeps our law enforcement officers from walking in blind. They would much rather not walk into a building and have no idea what they're walking into, especially because not only do they not know who's in the building, but it's probably a building they've not been in before, which means that they don't have any experience with the building layout itself. Because of the positive verification, you're going to get a faster response time and your alarms are going to be listed as a higher priority. You also will get a more appropriate response. So if a medical alert goes off, you are able to say, hey, someone fell. You're going to get an ambulance there with EMTs that are going to know to bring a stretcher in. If you have a fire, you're going to get the fire department there. If you tell them what's on fire, they can also respond correctly because not every fire is put out the same way. You can also let them know if there's people still in the building, things like that, so they know whether or not it's a rescue mission or if they just need to put out a fire. Same for the police, how do they need to appropriately respond? So there's a couple different ways that we can do video verification. Clip-based, which is where when the alarm goes off, it sends a clip from the cameras of whatever happened. Live video is also great. In that case, the operator can see not only what has happened, but what's going on currently. And the third one is AI assisted. So we talk about clip-based. It's better than no video at all for sure. If you only give the operator access to the clips of what happened and not to live video, they may not be able to determine what happened. Sometimes those clips just don't have enough information in them. So that's why we really want to give them the live video as well, so they can see live camera feeds. And that makes it helpful for them to see what's going on now. If you only give them live video, though, and not the ability to do playback or look at historic video, then they are not able to see past events. And so they may be able to see what's going on live, but they may not be able to determine what the actual cause of the alarm was. So giving them the clips and live video is going to be the best scenario. They're able to review that live video, but also to review the clips that they receive. And then ideally, they can also view any stored video. When we add the AI assistance, you're not removing the human, but you are reducing the response time by operators because you can quickly identify, is it a human, is it a vehicle, is it an animal? Even though it's going to still be reviewed by a human operator, they're giving extra information that helps them to review it quicker, which again is going to improve their response time and, when appropriate, the response time of any emergency or first responders. So some best practices that we want to talk about here are proper camera placement. If you have an alert on your front door, but you have no cameras looking at your front door, that's not very helpful. Also, the correct field of view. If you have one camera covering a giant warehouse, sure, it can see that door, but if the door is so small in the picture that you can't tell what's going on, that's not really helpful either. Adequate lighting is very important. A lot of cameras do have infrared, so they can see at night, but making sure that there's enough lighting that the camera can actually send a good image or a good video so that you can tell what's going on. Another big one is making sure that the correct alarm point is tied to the correct camera. If you have an alarm on your front door and it pulls the camera from your back door, that's not very helpful. And then finally, making sure that we have a clear standard operating procedure and clear escalation procedures. So every business is different. An office building, it may be that if the alarm goes off, they want you to call 3 people first before you dispatch the police. A data center may be different, especially if it's one that's high security. They may want an immediate dispatch of their security force or immediate dispatch of the police. It just really depends on what you want to set up, and each individual customer can be set up differently, but you do need to identify the SOPs and your escalation procedures. Common failure points, like we mentioned, camera pointed at the wrong area. You're getting bad information, you're getting a delayed response. This is a real problem because back to if your front door alarm goes off, but your back door camera is what gets sent, the operator doesn't know that that's the back door in the camera. They know that it's a door. So if I send a video clip and nothing's happening at the door, they're going to mark it as a false alarm, even though something really may be happening at the front door, but because I sent a clip of the back door, they have no idea. Bad lighting, poor visibility, these are huge. People like to use the cheapest thing they can. Often they're going to a big box store like a Costco or a Sam's Club or going to Amazon and buying whatever. If you don't have good visibility, you don't have good cameras, they're not configured correctly, you don't have the correct analytics set up on them, this isn't going to work. You're not going to get the information that you need to help to give you that video verification. So the best use cases here are typically commercial properties. Certainly some homes may have something like this set up, but very often because of privacy, people don't want a camera inside their home, and so you're not going to have video verification of a door entry because people don't want the camera there on a normal basis. That's why for most homes, we're going to back up the door contact with a glass break detector or a motion detector or something like that. So that way we get a couple of devices going off and we can be more confident that there is something happening. It's good when you have after hours intrusion detection. So you've got an office building that's empty. That's a great time to have video verification because you don't typically have any humans on site, but this gives a human the ability to see what's going on in the event of an emergency and to respond appropriately. Remote sites are the same way. If they're not normally manned, not normally staffed, then this is a great way for a human to still be able to overlook on that site without having to actually be there. And the last one is sites that typically have a high false alarm rate. So we do have some customers where their employees or their, whomever really struggle to operate an alarm system. And so there's a high amount of false alerts. And so you want to minimize the number of times, hopefully to zero, the number of times that you call up the police on a false alarm. And so when you have video verification, it really helps because then whoever's reviewing those cameras can see what's going on and hopefully identify that this is an employee versus, an intruder. So in closing here, video verification does not replace people. It just is a tool for people to use to help remove guesswork. It's going to reduce your false alarms, and that's going to improve your response time and your safety. People think that video verification is expensive. It's typically not. Usually the cost to add video verification to an alarm system is pretty minimal, and the first time that you pay a false alarm fine because you didn't have it is going to probably cost you more than what it would have cost to just do the video verification in the first place. So you're going to save money by turning it on, but you're also going to have a much better result by turning it on. That's all we got. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Welcome to Vigilant Security Consulting.